We are going to talk about the logical vulnerability paper. This video will serve as sort of the instructions so you know what I'm looking for. 3 pages in length, that's approximate. I don't grade based on length, just write a good paper, but just know that it doesn't need to be long. This is not research-oriented, no sources needed. This is about you thinking about your own life, your own worldview. Okay, so the points of logical vulnerability are those topics about which you find it difficult to be open-minded. When discussing or thinking about these topics, you find it hard to weigh fairly the evidence on each side of the issue. This is usually due to a bias, which is sometimes a prejudice toward one side of the issue. The assignment for this paper is to identify one of your points of logical vulnerability. So there's 5 things I want you to do, each worth 10 points. The total assignment's worth 50, right? So number 1, locate one of your points of logical vulnerability. Choose a topic that you have a hard time being open-minded towards. Choose one that you wish to improve on. Make it clear and explain your position well. The topic is going to be vital because it needs to be an issue that you can research later, okay? So this cannot be, I have a hard time being open-minded that cats are better than dogs because clearly dogs are better, right? That might be true, right? Maybe you're really closed-minded when it comes to cats and dogs, but that's not a topic you can research. So I'm thinking about social issues, theological issues, moral issues, political issues, things that are important. So I can imagine there's been some recent incidents at Ferguson with the police officer shooting the young man. There was an incident in Florida where an African American was killed and a man said it was self-defense and went to trial. The name is, I'm drawing a blank on. Maybe some of you feel like I can't even understand the other side. Like, this is so obvious to me. Why are people making this or this statement? And you have a really hard time hearing the other side, right? That's what I'm trying to get at, where you think one side is clearly rational and true and the other just seems ridiculous, right? Or at least you have a hard time understanding how anyone would hold it. So think about those areas in your life, right? It might help to think about what like evokes a reaction in you. Like every time homosexuality is brought up, it's like immediately you feel defensive or you feel like you want to make your, right? That might be an indicator that you have a point of logical vulnerability. That's not to say your position's wrong. Saying that there's a logical vulnerability is not saying your conclusion or your view is wrong. It's saying you're not open to the other side. You're not a very good listener when it comes to this topic. You can't, right? I hope you're getting the point. So you might be right about your view of X. But if you hold X so vehemently that you always name call or think less of or refuse to listen to people on the other side of that issue, then there's a problem. So I want you to really take time. Choosing the topic is vital. I can give you my shallow one, and that is that driving is safer than flying. It just seems ridiculous to me that flying can be safer because if my engine breaks down and I'm driving, I just pull over. And if the engine breaks down when I'm flying, I'm a big burning ball of fire flying through the sky at 400 miles an hour heading towards Earth. One just seems safer than the other, right? I can get into lots of accidents in my car and not die, airbag deploy, I might get injured. But I don't know of any plane accidents where death isn't involved. But again, I'm not open. The data says the opposite of my view. That's a problem. I probably need to look at that information more open-mindedly. That's a shallow example. A deeper example, as a Christian, I find it hard to see the validity of a Christian argument supporting the death penalty. Like, what would a Christian argument supporting the death penalty look like? It's hard for me. And I know that many Christians believe the death penalty is the right thing, which is so interesting. And yet I have a hard time being open-minded about that issue. And so I need to work on it. I probably should do more research. I should probably really think about what does the other side say, why do they say it, what scriptures do they look to, and be a lot more open-minded. So that might be an example. But choose that topic well, make sure it's an important one, theological, political, moral, philosophical issue that you could really investigate. Number 2, Indicate which side of the issue your bias inclines you towards. So in my case, I would be against the death penalty from a Christian perspective, and I have a hard time seeing why Christians are for it. It's easy for me to see why normal people would be in favor of it, like just your average American. But I have a hard time seeing why Christians would be in favor of it, if that makes sense. So my bias is kind of limited to that Christian perspective. So I want to make that clear in the paper. I am biased toward being against the death penalty from a Christian perspective. Number 3, without defending yourself, without telling you why your position is legitimate, without telling you why you're right, I want you to give me some psychological roots. Why do you think this bias occurs? So like maybe your issue is like homosexuality or something. Is it the home you were raised in that makes you biased? Is it the church you were in? Is it your view of Scripture? Because again, you might be right. Your logical vulnerability might end up being true. You're just trying to indicate, why are you closed-minded about this? Why do you have a hard time listening to the other side? Have you had any negative encounters that might make you less open-minded about this issue? So what is it that, if you look in the past, might help explain where you are today in your worldview? Number 4, give an example, a specific example from your life that highlights it. An argument you've gotten into, some things you've said to others that showed how close-minded you were. A refusal to watch a certain movie or read a certain article or something that you're just like, forget it, I won't even acknowledge it or something. And then 5, describe how a less closed-minded approach might help you. So what if you were more open-minded here? How might it benefit you? How might it have changed that example in number 4? How might it have led to a better interaction, better behavior? So the value of being less closed-minded in this particular instance. How might it help you? So these are the 5 things I'm looking for in the paper. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. And good luck.